They walked into the courtroom like strangers, no longer husband and wife, just two people fighting to be heard, understood, and believed. On one side, Maria, quiet but composed, her eyes red from too many nights of crying. On the other, David, tense, his jaw clenched, his lawyer flipping through papers. Everyone could sense it. This wasn't just a divorce trial. This was a war of emotion, betrayal, and buried truths waiting to surface. Before we dive deep into this emotionally charged courtroom drama, make sure you hit that subscribe button to our channel, The Verdict Diaries. We share gripping real-life and fictional legal stories every day that pull you right into the heart of justice. Your support helps us bring you more powerful content, so subscribe now and stay connected. Now let's begin the story. Maria and David had once been the perfect couple, or so it seemed from the outside. A whirlwind romance, followed by a lavish wedding, and eventually a life that looked picture-perfect on social media. But behind closed doors, secrets festered. Resentment grew like mold, quietly, invisibly, until it was too big to ignore. It all came crashing down when Maria discovered a hidden email. It was just one line from a woman she'd never heard of. "Are you coming tonight? I miss you." At first, she thought it was a mistake, but the rabbit hole she fell into unraveled her entire reality. She filed for divorce 2 weeks later. The trial began 6 months after that. What started as a standard separation quickly spiraled into chaos. There were allegations of emotional manipulation, financial abuse, and something far darker, a secret that even Maria hadn't planned on revealing. In court, Maria sat quietly as her lawyer spoke, but inside she was raging. David had painted her as unstable, overly emotional, and incapable of making sound decisions. But she had documentation, testimonies, even a psychologist's report. She wasn't going to let his lies bury her truth. David, in turn, looked cool and rehearsed, but even he wasn't prepared when Maria's lawyer pulled out a journal. Her journal. Pages and pages that detailed incidents of gaslighting, public humiliation, and moments when Maria questioned her own sanity. As her words were read aloud, the courtroom went still. Tears streamed down her face, not just from pain, but from release. This wasn't just about winning, it was about being heard. What no one knew was that the journal wasn't the biggest secret Maria had held on to. And in the next session, that secret was about to explode in the courtroom. The atmosphere inside the courtroom remained thick with tension. The silence that followed the bombshell confession was deafening. All eyes were on Emily as she held back tears, her voice trembling yet resolute. Judge Harper, seasoned but visibly shaken, took a moment before speaking. "This court will take a short recess," he said, standing up abruptly. The gavel hit, and murmurs exploded throughout the room. Reporters darted out to break the news, while family members whispered in disbelief. It was no longer just a custody battle, it was a full-blown exposé of betrayal and deeply buried secrets. Outside the courtroom, Emily sat in the hallway, head bowed, her attorney trying to steady her. "You did the right thing," the lawyer reassured her. "Truth has a way of breaking chains, even if it hurts." Across the hall, Daniel paced like a lion in a cage. His lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently. There was panic in Daniel's eyes now, and not just because he had been publicly shamed. It was the realization that his carefully crafted image was slipping away, brick by brick. As the recess ended and people filed back in, something had shifted. The jury, once neutral, now watched Daniel with sharper judgment. Emily, although emotional, had gained their empathy, and that empathy mattered. When the court resumed, Emily's attorney presented financial records, ones Daniel had claimed didn't exist. Offshore accounts, suspicious wire transfers, and questionable withdrawals all painted a damning picture. Daniel's expression tightened with every document revealed. He had underestimated her. Then came the letters, handwritten notes from Daniel to someone only referred to as A. The court gasped as they were read aloud. They spoke of plans to move money, of keeping things out of her hands, and of wanting to erase the past and start over. The implication was clear. Daniel had been planning an escape route long before the divorce even began. Daniel's lawyer objected, but the judge allowed the letters in. They were relevant, they were revealing, and they were real. Emily, regaining her composure, turned to the jury. "This isn't just about me," she said, her voice cracking. "It's about anyone who's ever been lied to, used, and discarded. I believed in our marriage. I built a life around his promises. But truth is the only foundation I stand on now." That moment became the emotional core of the entire trial. Even viewers watching at home through live streams couldn't look away. Her pain, her courage, it resonated. By the end of the day, the courtroom wasn't just focused on a verdict. They were witnessing a woman reclaim her dignity and a man confronting his unraveling mask. The next morning, headlines across every outlet read, "Courtroom in Chaos, the divorce that exposed it all." And the trial wasn't over yet. The biggest reveal was still to come. Rachel sat quietly at the edge of the witness stand, her fingers trembling ever so slightly as she clutched a folded tissue. Across the courtroom, Mark avoided her gaze, his expression unreadable. The judge called for silence, and the attorney began the next line of questioning, one that would open wounds deeper than anyone had expected. "Ms. Clark," the attorney said gently, "can you tell the court what you found in the safety deposit box?" Rachel swallowed hard, looked at the judge, then at the gallery filled with spectators and media. "I found letters," she said, her voice cracking. "Letters written to a woman I didn't know existed. Dozens of them, some dated even before our wedding." A gasp echoed across the courtroom. Mark looked down. He knew what was coming. Rachel continued. "They talked about a life they planned together, about how our marriage was a distraction. He never meant it to be real." At that moment, the courtroom shifted from legal dispute to emotional revelation. The silence that followed wasn't just from shock, but from empathy. The betrayal felt too real, too familiar, to many watching. As Rachel stepped down, her quiet sobs replaced the arguments and objections that had dominated the room all morning. Even the judge's face had softened. Next, Mark was called to the stand. His lawyer tried to steer the questioning, but the damage was already done. Rachel's testimony, coupled with the letters and financial documents, painted a picture not of a man overwhelmed by emotion, but of one who had calculated every move. Then came the surprise. The prosecutor, holding back a final piece of evidence, introduced a journal. It was from Mark's late business partner, the one who had mysteriously died in a boating accident 2 years prior. The journal implied foul play and hinted that the financial fraud might be bigger than a divorce settlement. It might involve insurance fraud, offshore accounts, and a carefully planned cover-up. The courtroom buzzed again. This wasn't just a messy divorce anymore. It was now something darker, perhaps criminal. As proceedings paused for the day, reporters swarmed outside the courthouse. Headlines exploded online. "Tears, lies, and a journal. Divorce drama takes criminal turn." But inside, Rachel sat quietly, looking out the courtroom window, not for attention, but for peace. She had come for closure, but she might be walking away with justice for more than just herself. This was no longer just a battle over money, property, or reputation. It had become a reckoning. As the courtroom doors opened for the final day, every seat was filled. News crews were stationed outside. Inside, the air buzzed with tension, knowing that by the end of the day, secrets would be revealed and lives possibly changed forever. The judge entered quietly, and the room fell into complete silence. With a heavy tone, he began to speak. In my years on the bench, I've seen many difficult cases, but few as emotionally complex as this one. We are not just dealing with legal documents and testimonies, we are dealing with people, with lives torn by betrayal, with children caught in emotional storms they never asked for. Gasps rippled through the courtroom as the judge turned his gaze to both parties. This court finds overwhelming evidence that emotional manipulation and secrecy played a significant role in the deterioration of this marriage. It is therefore my ruling that full custody be awarded to the mother, with supervised visitation granted to the father. Tears welled in the eyes of the woman who had fought so hard not just for her children, but for the truth. Her hands trembled slightly, as though the weight of it all had finally lifted. The husband sat still, eyes glazed, shoulders dropped. It was a moment of reckoning. Outside the courthouse, reporters scrambled to get statements, but the mother, surrounded by her attorney and family, simply said, "This was never about revenge. It was about protection, about standing up when no one else would." The internet soon caught fire. Clips from the courtroom trended online. Public opinion swayed rapidly as the details became clearer. Memes, debates, even late-night commentary shows dissected every word of the final ruling. But for those who lived it, it wasn't entertainment, it was survival. Weeks later, the children returned to some sense of normalcy. The mother focused on rebuilding their lives. She spoke at domestic support groups, emphasizing the importance of emotional awareness and legal preparedness. And as for the father, he entered therapy and remained in limited contact, now under court supervision. For the first time in years, he began to reflect. The trial had not just changed their marriage, it had forced him to face parts of himself he had ignored. In the end, this wasn't just a divorce case. It was a powerful reminder that behind every legal battle are human beings trying to heal, to grow, and to protect what matters most. If this story moved you, please take a second to subscribe to the Verdict Diaries. Every day, we share real and compelling legal dramas that touch lives and challenge perspectives. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay informed, stay strong, and never underestimate the power of the truth.